Thank you, everyone, for joining. I'll now call to order the regular meeting of the Reno City Planning Commission. Today is Wednesday, August 21st, and we are at the City of Reno Council Chamber. We will begin with Agenda Item 1, the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Becerra, will you please lead us? Closing Item 1 and moving to Agenda Item 2. Michelle, can we get a roll call, please?
Carrie Romeyer. Manny Becerra.
Here.
Christina Del VR. Christina Del VR.
Here.
JD Draculich is absent. Alex Velto. Here. Sylvia Villanueva is absent. Harris Armstrong.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. We'll close Item 2. And before moving on to Item 3, we would like to propose a change to the agenda, moving Item 4.2, which is a staff presentation, until after public hearings. Don't see any issues with that, so I think we'll go ahead and proceed. Close Item 2 and move on to Item 3, public comment. This item is for public comment on any action item or any general public comment.
Members of the public may call into the meeting to provide public comment by using the Zoom link provided on the agenda, specifically https://links.reno.gov/links.45N3QM It should be noted for those in the audience that comments are to be addressed to the Planning Commission as a whole. Comments heard under this item will be limited to 3 minutes per person and may pertain to matters both on and off the Planning Commission agenda. Please note that the Planning Commission may not take action upon any matter not agendized for possible action on today's agenda. When you are called on for public comment, please state your name for the record and begin speaking. The timer will begin when you say your name and you will be afforded 3 minutes. If you are an attendee in the Zoom meeting and would like to make public comment at this time, please raise your hand. Lastly, while in this room, please be respectful. Warnings will be issued by the presiding officer if there is disruptive behavior, and you will be asked to leave chambers if the behavior continues. We did not receive any voicemails we did receive voicemails and correspondence that was we did not receive any voicemails. We did receive correspondence that was general in nature and not specific to any items on this agenda. They were forwarded to the Planning Commission and have been entered into the record.
Do we have anyone wishing to speak on Zoom? Don't have any requests to speak forms. Do we have anyone in the chambers wishing to speak during general public comment? Seeing none, we'll close Item 3, general public comment, and move to Item 4.1, staff report, acceptance of a resident impact statement associated with the closure of the Parkdale Soul Mobile Home Park. This item is for discussion only.
Good evening, Commissioners. This is Carter from the Associate Planner with the City of Reno. I'm unable to attend in person this evening, but I'll introduce this item. This is a reporting requirement established by the Nevada Revised Statutes in the case that a mobile home park closes. It is intended to, make you all aware, make the city aware, and notify the residents of the closure, as they have certain rights associated with mobile home park closures. There is no applicant or staff presentation, but if there are any questions as far as the process or items related to housing affordability and neighborhood, for the Housing and Neighborhood Development Department, there's somebody in the room that can answer those questions, and mine is myself. But there is an opportunity to discuss, or we can move on.
Sure, Commissioner Becerra.
Sure. Just a question out of curiosity. So this is just administrative. Carter, is this an administrative action, or how does a closure come to be? I guess
there is no a restriction on the landlord's right to closure, except that they have to follow certain procedures. This is one of those procedures. It's a notification, a report that has to be submitted to the Planning Commission or governing body of the specific jurisdiction. They also have to compensate the individual tenants. So there is a compensation component to this that happens with the state of Nevada Department of Manufactured Housing.
Great. Thanks, Carter.
Any further questions from the commission or comments? Seeing none, I have none myself. Do we have anyone in the public wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none, I'll close item 4.1, and we will move on to item 5, public hearings. Item 5.1 has been postponed. I believe it was a noticing error.
No, the project applicant request to postpone this item prior to notices going out, so we can move on to item 5.2.
Okay, thank you, Mike. We'll move on to item 5.2, LDC 2400066, Burger King CUP, and we'll begin with a presentation from staff.
Good evening, Commissioners. Heather Taylor, Assistant Planner, here to discuss a conditional use permit for an existing Burger King restaurant. So like I said, this is an existing development. It's a little over an acre in size, and it's located on Kitsky Lane, just north of its intersection with Vassar. The applicants are requesting a conditional use permit to extend the operating hours between 11 p.m. and 6 a.m. The site is zoned general commercial, and they're immediately adjacent to single-family residential, 8 units per acre to the west and north. So the site was originally developed in 1999 under a special use permit to allow for commercial development along a major arterial and residential adjacency. A request to operate outside of standard allowed hours was not contemplated at that time. The 1999 entitlement included a 6-foot wall on the west and north boundaries, along with a landscape area, which is still compliant with today's code for drive-throughs within 100 feet of a residential property line. So on this side, you can see the building outline. The red star is where the ordering takes place, and the arrows indicate the direction of the drive-through. To mitigate conflict regarding the outdoor speaker, staff is recommending a condition to restrict the use of the outdoor speaker between 11 p.m. and 6 a.m., meaning the drive-through lane would only be used for mobile orders. So a customer would just skip the speaker in the menu board altogether, go to the window, and pick up their order. The interior of the building will remain open and available for customers not using the mobile pickup option during the overnight hours. On the screen are the conditional use permit findings. Staff believes all findings can be met and recommends approval, subject to conditions listed in the staff report. Here's the recommended motion, and I am available for questions.
Awesome job. Thank you. Nice to see you over there. And do we have a presentation from the applicant? Yes, we do. Okay, the applicant is free to present when they're ready.
They have it, right?
Yes, it's up there.
Oh, perfect.
Okay, so we are Burger King. How do I work this here? So we are MRB Holdings. My name is Samantha Miller, and I have Jamie Coble here. He is our Director of Operations and District Manager. We also have here Todd Luchner. He's the Director of Maintenance and Remodeling, Construction, and all of that. William Miller and Samir Thakar, they are our district managers as well. All 5 of us have a combined experience at Burger King for over 55 years. So we know the game, we know Burger King very well. We're a proud member of the Burger King family since 2007 as MRB Holdings Corporation. We're committed to providing our community with the same high-quality food, exceptional service, and convenient dining experience that Burger King has to offer and is renowned for. We are committed to being active members of our community as well. Our support includes contributions to local school programs and offer corporate scholarships to deserving students. We are requesting a conditional use permit to extend our operating hours to 24 hours a day. And by operating around the clock, we can better serve our customers, create new job opportunities, and contribute to the local economy as well. And we are committed to being good neighbors and will work closely with the community to address any concerns. And then now I'll hand it over to William for addressing and understanding the neighborhood.
So I'm William. Keatske Lane is one of my restaurants. I was a general manager there for quite a while before I was a district manager. We've seen that since we've started, we have an increased demand in that location a lot for food delivery. There is some factories, a couple, maybe like 6 or 8 blocks away that are open on the third shift. We have a proven track record for our food safety, our commitment to food safety. We've got the highest scores with a 94.3. That was back in July. We commit to staff training. We're currently at, that location's at 100% right now in staff training. And that's all I got so far.
A grade in your Washoe County Health.
Oh, and I have an A grade in our Washoe County Health District inspections as well.
Okay.
Next, you got it?
This one.
Okay, that's good.
Todd? Todd is our head of maintenance and construction, so he can address some of the noise mitigation strategies there.
Hi, guys. So my name is Todd Lushner. Want to talk about noise mitigation strategies. We're willing and able to help mitigate any issues that may arise from any of the neighbors that might cause any, or if we caused any issues. We've already talked about basically making it to where we do mobile orders only. That means that nobody would be speaking in or out of the actual microphone in the drive-thru. Everybody would be going straight up to the window. Secondly, one of the things that we're going to be doing by having to be, or by staying open 24 hours is litter prevention and cleanup. The longer we have the staff on site, the more they can go out and make their rounds and clean up the parking lot, the drive-through, things of that nature, and relieve any kind of problems that might arise there. And thirdly, safety and security measures. That area, when that parking lot is dark, we tend to have a lot of issues with different people, drug use and people sleeping in the parking lot and things of that nature. We've actually, as soon as today, we actually had to call the police on somebody and get them out of there. So what we're hoping is if there's more people, more bodies on site, then people aren't going to gather.
The lights too, yeah. Having the lights on all night.
Yeah, and then we'd have the lights on as well. So,
Okay.
thank you.
Economic benefits, job creation and support. Obviously, to run 24 operations, we would need to hire more staff. It will add to that in the community as well. Increase tax revenue, the more sales we do, obviously more tax is going to go to the city. And then community involvement, the more sales that restaurant can do, the more we can give back to our local community. We are partnering with Wooster over there to do some sponsorship with the high school there as well. Operation details, 24-hour operations is a seamless experience. We've done this in other locations. We also have one in California that's also 24 hours. It's very seamless to just transfer over to 24 hours, have the minimum staff there to make sure that the restaurant stays open. With the expansion of DoorDash, Grubhub, Uber Eats, the demand is there for delivery food, especially on the late night and those overnight hours. More and more people are ordering later at night. Dedicated and trained staff, like he mentioned, we have 100% completion on our training there. And then we will have a minimum of 3 staff members in that restaurant at all times. That way the lobby can stay open, they can service the guests, and the restaurant is safe as well. And then just conclusion, we're committed to the community, whatever we need to do. Like we said, we would turn off the speaker at nighttime to mitigate the sound, have our customers come directly to the window, and then just key benefits, we're going to just increase the business the way it is, so. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll now bring it back to the commission for disclosures. Commissioner Velto, can you please start?
Commissioner Velto, familiar with the site?
Commissioner Becerra, familiar with the site and ate there growing up?
Commissioner Del Villar, do you have any disclosures on this project?
I have never eaten there, and that's okay.
We would welcome you to come visit us.
Yeah.
Commissioner Armstrong, I'm familiar with this site, otherwise no disclosures. We'll now move to public comment. Any person who has chosen to provide his or her public comment when a public hearing is heard will need to so indicate on the request to speak form provided to the secretary. Alternatively, you may provide your comment when item 3, general public comment, is heard at the beginning of this meeting. I have no request to speak forms. Michelle, is anyone wishing to speak via Zoom?
No one on Zoom, no request to speak forms or correspondence for this item.
Thank you. Anyone in the chambers wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and close public comment and bring it back to the commission for questions. Commissioner Becerra?
Yes, Chair, thank you. Maybe for Heather? Hey, Heather. I was curious, are there comparables? Because I think there's a Carl's Jr., McDonald's, and a few other similar joints next door, right?
Yes.
Do any of those have like 24/7 CUP or 24/7 like CUP?
You know, I did not look into that before.
Okay, the applicant's kind of nodding their head though, so
The McDonald's across the street from us is open 24 hours on Fridays, Saturdays.
Fridays and Saturdays?
Previously, they were open 24 hours, 7 days a week. I think they looked into the sales and made a decision that it wasn't worth it to them to be open 7 days a week, but they are still open 24/7 on Friday and Saturday.
Yeah, and then I think, sir, would you mind coming up just to state your name for the record? Of
course.
And I'm taking Harris's job there for a second, but
Sorry.
if you'd like to.
Name is Jamie Coble. I'm the Director of Operations for the business.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then Heather, it was kind of a precursor question, because I was the main issue the drive-through speaker box going off so loud, or?
Yes, that was the problem. There was a code enforcement complaint that came in regarding the usage of the outdoor speaker after 11 p.m. So it came before us, and they asked if they needed a conditional use permit. We told them, that they did through the code enforcement process, and then that the main concern was the speaker.
Oh, okay, and the neighbors are fine with the conditions, do you know?
I haven't got any sort of correspondence or comment from them, so
Yeah.
that's the best we can do.
Because where I'm leading with this is that, Burger King may, if we decide this evening, may get this conditional use permit, and then Carl's Jr. may, and then the next door neighbor, and so forth and so forth. And I'm just concerned, how do we then deal with potential volume noise? It's not just a speaker, but all the vehicles and perhaps folks hanging out that may create an issue that we weren't anticipating, kind of like the issue 20 years ago you mentioned in your presentation that we weren't anticipating this issue. But are there issues that we're not anticipating yet that maybe we should be before we proceed with this, or are we pretty good?
If there are, I think that code kind of provides us with a way out of it, because it requires the wall and the buffer, the landscape buffer. So that in itself provides, kind of a mitigation. Requiring the speaker to be turned off overnight is just an extra kind of step to make sure that there's no problems with the neighbors. And if something like, we'll just have to take each, drive-through case by case, because it's kind of hard to tell what's there, what's existing, what they were required to do at the beginning. And if the neighbors have problems with it, then we won't know until it happens, so.
Okay. And were there any lighting conditions so as not to keep the neighbors up as well, or is that not an issue?
There's already lighting conditions required for residential adjacency, so they'd have to follow that. It's just a certain foot candle at the property line. So kind of everything kind of has to be shining towards the middle of the site and not at the property line itself.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
Well, it sounds like hopefully this works out where it reduces kind of like the challenges you're facing now with folks just kind of lingering around. So sounds promising. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Don't want to forget about you, Commissioner Del Villar on Zoom. Did you have any questions at this time? Or are you okay?
One of my questions was about the lighting, and I know that they have the mitigations in place already. One of the other questions I have is around sort of what their sales forecasts are, kind of going to, the question of potential traffic. And obviously this is late at night anyway, so there's going to be less traffic, but, again, a little bit more noise, more traffic, more lights, that sort of thing. So I was just kind of curious to what, sort of like a percentage of, new folks coming through for meals between 11 and 6 a.m. might be.
Go ahead.
Jamie Coble again. In the locations that we have 24 hours, including the California one, it's about 20% increase in in the overnight sales. About 75% of that is DoorDash or Uber Eats coming to pick up orders, and they're picking up multiple orders at that time. So there's not a ton of traffic, but it's the cars coming in, picking up those orders, heading home most of the time.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was all I had.
Thank you. Commissioner Velto, any questions? I have no questions at this time. Do we have any further questions from the commission, or should we move into discussion? All right, we'll move into discussion. Does anyone want to start discussion? Or I would entertain a motion if there's no discussion.
I'm happy to make a motion, Chair.
Go for it, thank you.
Sure. On the matter of LDC 24-00066, based upon compliance with the applicable findings, I move to approve the conditional use permit subject to conditions listed in the staff report.
Commissioner Velto, second.
Right, we have first and a second. Any last discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
All right, motion passes unanimously. Good luck with your project. We'll now close item 5.2 and open item 5.3, case number LDC 24-00060, Chalk Bluff LLC, major site plan review. And looks like we'll get a presentation from staff first.
Good evening, members of the commission. For the record, my name is Leah Picotti, and I am an associate planner with the City of Reno Development Services. This evening, I am presenting an application for Chalk Bluff LLC major site plan review. The subject site is a 2.5 acre portion of a 23 acre parcel that's located just south of the I-80 and just east of Robb Drive. The request here is for fills greater than 10 feet in height and disturbance of a major drainage way. The current zoning district is large lot residential, and the site is currently vacant. Key issues that we looked at in this are overall site design and natural resource protection. This is a very small component of a much larger project. And I know that there's a couple of you here tonight who are newer and may not have seen this. But over the course of the past few years, we have processed several different entitlements for Flying J, TCA, and Heiser, which is directly to the east of this project. So on the screen up there, you can see in purple is the proposed area that we're looking at today, and everything else that you see has already been approved. It is important to note, too, that this site, even though it's technically vacant, in 2010, it was issued a permit for grading and temporary stockpiling, and that had to do with the expansion of the I-80 at that time. So there is some disturbance already on the site, and as we get to the major drainage way, I'll show you that it's significantly disturbed already. So overall site design, again, we're looking at 2.75 acre development. We're looking at fills up to 60 feet in height, approximately 82,000 cubic yards of fill. And the applicant has proposed to construct a sediment basin for what I believe is construction on the adjacent site. Regarding the major drainage way, this is a little bit rough, but basically the existing drainage way does something like this, and the pipe ends approximately 60 feet from the property line. Now, you can kind of see the corner of the property boundary here, but to the right of that is the Heiser property. And the Heiser property is an SPD that was approved back in 2023, and piping of the major drainage way was approved in that application. So their plan was to run that pipe along the northern portion of the parcel. So all this is going to do is take that existing pipe and move it up to the northern portion and run it directly to the Heiser property that's already been approved for the piping of the major drainage way, and that it will channel down into a natural drainage way that's on the other side of the Heiser property. Major site plan review recommended findings. Staff is able to make all of these findings. I can go through these with you if you like, but basically it's compatible. It supports the adjacent developments. The grading and the piping has already been approved on the adjacent properties. Public services and facilities are all available. It's technically an infill parcel. It's compatible with the types of development. And lastly, it's going to improve drainage in the area. That concludes my presentation. The recommended motion is on the board. I'm available for questions, and Stacy is here with a presentation as well. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Looks like we'll get a presentation from the applicant next. I see you, Stacy.
Good evening. Stacy Huggins with Wood Rogers, here tonight on behalf of the Chalk Bluff LLC grading project. Leah did a great job summarizing this project, so I have a couple more slides than she did, and some of them are repeats. I will try to skip over them. You know where the site is, but just as a reminder, that blue outline on the aerial is the full parcel. The area outlined in red is really the subject of this major site plan review. Just a little bit more history for those of you that may not have been in the Planning Commission role when these went through the process. So directly south of the Robb Drive exit is the Flying J management piece, the Robb Drive mixed use project it was called when it went through. That was approved in July of 2023. It included a major site plan review for cuts and fills on that parcel. It established development pads and established circulation that's represented on this map. In January of 2024, the Heiser, or the S3 Robb Drive specific plan was approved. As Leah mentioned, that established the drainage way to be piped through the north end of that property. It also established grading quantities, maximum disturbed areas, and cuts and fill depths. And then it really did include, we contemplated as part of that project, piping and rerouting this existing drainage way to outlet to the east. So we had always contemplated this drainage way being in a pipe. What we're really trying to do today is fix that little purple piece on the map so that it kind of ties together in the drainage. As Leah mentioned, this property, and I've got some aerials I'll show you, was previously disturbed through a building permit for a number of projects. I-80 and Retrack were the big ones. And you'll see in the next pictures I have really how impacted this property was. So I picked a couple. I went back as far as 1998, and the property had been disturbed as far back as that. So I just picked some of the bigger, more impactful grading images to share with you. but you can see back in 2004, they were very much disturbing the site. If you look on the eastern side where our project site sits, I don't think I can point to it, but you can see that the grading was intentionally cut off at the edge there in what I'm calling the donut hole or the ravine of the parcel. And that carries through in each of these images. In 2011, you can see there was fill brought onto this site as part of the I-80 project. Again, in 2018, you can see there's a little bit more disturbance, still have not touched this area that is subject to this project or this request tonight. So just kind of touching high level on the grading, again, Leah did a great job talking about this. This area that we're looking at is about 2.5 acres of the overall site. It is, we have fills approximately 60 feet in depth. In order to bring this, again, hole in the donut up to the same level as the properties surrounding it to the west. It will eliminate that ravine. The materials are sourced from other grading projects, so that would be associated with the Heiser project and the Flying J. And we're doing this so that we can really do one overarching grading project so that everything can kind of be graded at the same time and we don't have to have multiple grading projects and multiple phases of grading. It will really help to reduce the impact on the overall area by doing this all at once. In terms of the major drainage way impact, I've kind of already talked about that a couple times, right? We're going to put it in a pipe, connect it through the Heiser project, and send it to the east into another natural drainage way that we're not impacting. So I want to just show you, we put together some visual impact simulations. So I'd like to just take a minute and show you what these might look like. So the picture on the top, we have two different views, and I'm going to show you without this fill project and with from both views. So looking kind of at the site, if you were traveling eastbound on I-80, the top picture is what it would look like today, and the bottom picture is what it would look like without this major site plan review on the Chalk Bluff site. So you can see there, it really has an abrupt grade change from the Heiser property. It drops down into the bottom of the ravine, and then the adjacent Heiser or Chalk Bluff property, if it weren't filled, it would have to come back up essentially, and you'd continue to have this hole there, creating unnecessary steep grades. So with the approved or with the proposed project, again, the picture on the bottom kind of shows what that would look like once it's filled in from traveling eastbound. It's a much smoother grade change from parcel to parcel, and it really brings, and I'll show you in the next picture, that parcel up to the same level as where the current Chalk Bluff parcel that has already been filled and disturbed up to the same level as that site. So now we're looking at the site from across I-80 on the north side. You can see there circled in the top, it says view 2. It's from I think that's some sort of assisted care facility looking across the way. The image on the top, again, that's what it looks like today. The bottom picture is what it will look like without this current Chalk Bluff fill project. With the Chalk Bluff fill project, the picture on the bottom is what it will look like to traffic going westbound. And you can see, as I mentioned before, it really brings it up to the same grade as the Chalk Bluff property that's already been disturbed. We're not increasing any of the elevation on the remaining portion of the Chalk Bluff piece. It is just this 2.5 acre portion of the site. So it's not terribly visible going westbound. It's not gonna scream at you. It ties the two properties together. Again, the Heiser fill is already approved, so we're not creating something on the Heiser property or the S3 property that isn't already approved and ready to move forward. Hit on all this. That's my presentation. I am happy to answer any questions. I have an engineer here if you have something specific that you want to ask too.
Great, thanks for your presentation. We'll bring it back to the commission for disclosures. Commissioner Velto.
Commissioner Velto, familiar with the location. I also spoke briefly with the applicant's representative.
Commissioner Becerra, same disclosures as Commissioner Velto.
Commissioner Del Villar, I am aware of the area and I have not spoken to anybody about it.
Commissioner Armstrong, I'm familiar with the site, read and received emails, and those are my only disclosures. We'll now close disclosures and move back into public comment. Any person who has chosen to provide his or her public comment when a public hearing is heard will need to so indicate on the request to speak form provided to the secretary. Alternatively, you may provide your comment when item 3, public comment, is heard at the beginning of this meeting. I have no request to speak forms. Is anyone wishing to speak via Zoom?
No one on Zoom, no correspondence, and no voicemails for this item.
Anyone in the chambers wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close public comment and bring it back to the commission for questions.
No questions, Chair. I'm actually ready to make a motion, unless Commissioner Becerra has questions.
I do.
Please.
I do.
Go ahead.
I guess, I think for Stacy. Yeah. Hey, Stacy.
Hi.
It seems pretty on the up and up. Everything seems fine. I was just kind of curious. This seems to be part of a bigger vision here. Is that correct? I think you mentioned
That is a correct statement.
bullet 3 on one of your slides. It's kind of future development.
Would you mind bringing my presentation back up? Just so we're looking at it together.
Uh,
Let me
Thank you.
just, sorry. Whoop, too far.
Too far.
Which one did you want to see?
I think the one that mentioned that it related to future development. I think it was that.
This one?
There it is. Yeah, bullet 4, I guess. Okay. So is it also a fair statement that we'll probably be seeing y'all for a zoning amendment? Because it's still large lot residential, correct?
So, Stacy Huggins for the record. The Chalk Bluff parcel is zoned LLR. It could be developed with large lot residential if the property owner chose to take that path. But they could certainly come in with a zone change to try to do something that is compatible with the rest of the higher intensity development around them.
Okay. So what if it's not that? What would the future developments be if it's not that? What's being envisioned?
I mean, I think kind of going back to the zoning, and maybe this is more of a question or a conversation for Leah because it's really more about the zoning of the property, but they could put single-family detached homes on that large lot zoned property right now. Or they could try to do a zone change if they wanted to.
Okay. If it's not that, what's the point of the rerouting then?
Really, again, the point of the grading, right, and the grading kind of triggers the reroute of the drainage way, is to not have this hole in the middle of all of these and not create those abrupt drop-offs into this hole in the middle of all of these properties. Even if this Chalk Bluff property were developed as single-family detached lots, without this filling project, they would either have to do it themselves at a future date or leave it undeveloped and work around it. We're filling it now as part of this effort, this overall grading effort, so that there can someday in the future be a comprehensive development project for that entire area.
Yeah, that all makes sense. Thank you, Stacy. I was just trying to get a sense of that kind of larger vision, because I know when the Heiser project came before us, I think the applicant was a different person who is no longer involved. And so, and that's fine. I'm just trying to get a sense of the vision, which oftentimes relates to a sense of consistency with who's behind a project.
Unfortunately, I can't speak for the property owner for what he will do with the rest of his property, but.
Yeah, that's all right. Just trying to get a sense of that vision.
Sure.
Okay, thank you, Stacy.
Sure.
Yep.
Commissioner Delviar, did you have any questions?
I just had a question sort of about the process that might take place And like, how long would it take to do this? I'm just kind of more curious than anything else. Like, is there noise and dirt and dust? And again, like you mentioned, the senior and memory assisted living is across the way, and just didn't know if there was any impact or anything like that we should be considering.
Thank you for your question. Leah Picotti for the record. The conditions of approval require that they obtain a grading permit within 18 months. So we're kind of looking at that particular time frame. In terms of mitigating noise or any kind of pollution in the air or anything like that, we're fairly confident that the grading practices that are required by the city in general are going to mitigate those issues. That care facility is across the freeway, so it's quite a distance away from where this is going to be happening. Plus, you've got traffic and the freeway and off ramps and all of that as well. Anytime we look at these projects, we look specifically to see what sort of impacts those are going to have. And when we create those conditions of approval, the first thing we put in there is anything that needs to be done to mitigate that. So staff is confident on this project that all of those things will be mitigated.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the commission? Commissioner Becerra, go ahead.
Sure. It's more kind of a comment for staff and applicant. I can get behind this. This seems totally fair. I do recall, though, that at some point, it wasn't the Heiser one, not solely the Heiser one, but the one prior to that that's directly south. There was community concern from folks to the west, I want to say. And if this does come before us in the future, that time is given for them to share those concerns if they have any future concerns, and those concerns be considered. And not that staff doesn't do that already, but I did notice that the NAB was canceled for this one in July, and so life happens, but it shouldn't happen at the detriment of them being able to provide their input. Again, this one seems fine, but for something like a zoning amendment change or something larger, I would really advocate for their input to be considered.
And just to mitigate some of your concerns, Leah Picotti for the record, if this ever comes for a zone change, it's also got a master plan of large lot, which means it's going to require a master plan amendment. Master plan amendments require community meetings beyond the neighborhood advisory board. So if anything like that happens in the future, we can assure you the community will be aware.
Finger snaps. Thanks, Leah.
Any further, I guess we're kind of in discussion now. Any further discussion or a motion?
Chair, I'm ready to make a motion. In the matter of case number LDC 24-00060 Chalk Bluff LLC major site plan review, based upon compliance with the applicable findings, I move to approve the major site plan review subject to the conditions listed in the staff report, and I can make all the findings.
I can second that.
Great, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Vote passes unanimously. Good luck with your project. I'll close item 5.3 and public hearings in general and go back to item 4.2 for a presentation by Development Services Assistant Director Angela Foose.
Good evening. For the record, Angela Foose, Assistant Director for Development Services. Our intent with this presentation is really just to give you an update on some of the broader things that the City of Reno is working on. We tried to keep it limited to things that you would care about in terms of development, or things that maybe you would see come before you, maybe on a different level. So while the city is doing a ton of work, just in general, we're just going to give you some high-level points of some of the things that you may be interested in. And again, just helping to keep you guys educated on some of the policy and decision-making items that council's working on. I think this will be more of a kind of an informational and kind of a happy presentation. No questions at the end. All right, so we're going to go kind of department by department, and I wanted to start with the Parks Department. That picture on the top is our brand new Moana Springs Aquatic and Fitness Center. And you may have remembered this. This came before Planning Commission, gosh, probably 2 or 3 years ago. And you said, great, what are you guys going to do? We said, we're going to build this great new swimming pool. So we are actually at the point now where it's done. We're having a grand opening here this month, or maybe even next month. And then we're going to open it up to the public. So this is super exciting. There's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears across the city that went into this project and across the community as a whole. So very excited to see that happen. Some other big things happening within the Parks Department is just this last year, so within the last probably 8 months or so, they adopted a new master plan. These master plans do not come before Planning Commission, they go before the Parks Commission. So this is not something you guys would have seen, but we wanted to highlight some of the key things that came out of that. So we're calling it the PROS plan, the Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Master Plan. We're really kind of taking a different approach to parks. You know, for the last probably 30 or 40 years, we've said, well, when you come in with development, you pay a park fee. All residential development pays a park fee. It's about $1,000 per door. You guys don't ever see that because it's not something that's discussed. When they come in for a building permit for each house, they pay that fee. That money then goes to building new parks. Now, one of the challenges we continue to have is, well, who's buying the land for the parks? Who's actually building the amenities in the park? And who's maintaining the parks? That park fee, again, $1,000 per door, has not increased in quite some time, and that's set by the state legislature. So we don't have the ability as a city to raise that fee unless the state legislature wants to. So we're kind of challenged with, well, you know, the price of maintenance, the price of building, the price of owning land has gone up drastically. So we realized we can't afford to continue doing things the way we used to do. So one of the big things that came out of this PROS plan is trying to come up with different ways to fund parks. So as we see development projects come forward, they will continue to pay that $1,000 per door, but we're also asking them to do things differently. When projects come forward, we're now asking them to donate the land, to pay to put in the park, and to maintain the park. This is a very different mindset than the city of Reno has had in the past. But again, understanding our challenges, there is not enough money to go around to maintain the parks we have today, let alone build new parks. So this is something, again, as we see new tentative maps come forward, we'll be looking. And again, the biggest difference here is they're not, the development community is not required to do these things. So we are working with them on a case-by-case basis. That last project, Heiser, was probably a great one. You may have remembered when Heiser came before you as an SPD, and you guys said, well, we want you to dedicate land for a park. And at the end of the day, council said, well, we don't necessarily want land unless it's usable, right? We see a lot of developers donating land that's like steep. What are we going to do with this? Kids aren't playing on steep slopes. We can't just grade it and put in, amenities. So we're really doing a hard look at how we're addressing parks, and you'll start to see that more and more as more development projects come forward. Fire. This is definitely a big one. We had that fire out in the Santara, Quilisi, Verdi area just within the last month or so, and I think it was not fitting timing-wise, but that area is something that has been before the Planning Commission more recently, so you guys are very aware of that development that's planned out there. We have about 1,200 homes, and we have plans for a fire station. We have plans for a residential fire station. We have no money to build a fire station. These are concerns. These are things the city of Reno is challenged with. We know development's coming. We know we have approved development. We do not have anything in our CIP plan to build a fire station in this area. Years ago, as we started to see Verdi kind of develop, we added an extra contribution to development out there. So we've asked them to contribute money that we are now going to use to help fund a fire station. Now, when we came up with that contribution amount, the fire stations at that time were being built for about $7 million. Seems reasonable. A fire station today is more like 10 to 15 million. So again, we've already missed the target on being able to fund a future fire station. A lot of things that we're thinking about of how do we do that. So just know at the end of the day, this is more so for the public. Just because you build houses doesn't mean there's any funding source to build a fire station, let alone to man a fire station. Our firefighters today, we have about 254 on staff. Those guys work a rotation. Now, we have multiple fire stations. I think we have 14 different fire stations, and they all work different shifts. And as they, have doctor's appointments or days off or vacations or sick leave, our fire department is constantly juggling staff. I think the last numbers I heard was on an average day, we have about 72 firefighters working at these stations. To be fully staffed, we would probably need about 100 firefighters working at these stations. So there's this constant battle with, we need more fire stations, we need more firemen, we need more money. Know that, again, fire is not something that's easy to solve. It's a complex topic. We at one time had one fire department. We were merged with Truckee Meadows in the city of Reno. That merger happened back in 2000. I think it was back in 2012. That those two stations got divorced. And so, again, we've had a lot of challenges with budget when we get married and then we get divorced, as we could all probably relate to from, growing up in the 80s with divorced parents. Come on, who didn't? I think we can appreciate the fact that there's challenges with budgets, and we see that across the board. That bottom picture is it's a concept. So that is our new kind of proposed fire station. This is in the downtown area where we currently have our police station. The game plan is to demolish the existing building and then build a new fire station. This is going to be a very amazing building. So where we're at in timing-wise in process, we are likely going to be able to kind of clean up the asbestos in the next probably 6 months, demolish the police station in the next probably 6 to 12 months, and then we're still looking at what does this new building look like. So we've hired consultants to design it. It's going to be multi-stories. It's going to be able to serve the whole downtown area. Again, one of the busiest fire stations in the nation. I think it's the top 5 fire stations in terms of busyness in the entire nation. We have a lot of calls for service out of the station. But the one thing we don't know for sure is the timing of when it will be built. So once we get a design completed, we'll go back to council and show what the budget needs to be. And then we're going to figure out how we're going to pay for it. So stay tuned for that. I think we've lost it. Okay. Okay. Police department. Our public safety center just opened. I think our groundbreaking was last week. This is a huge accomplishment for the city. This was the old RGJ building that kind of was repurposed. Again, another huge win for the city of Reno. How we funded this was through an impact fee. So every 3 years, we're going to come back to the Planning Commission, talk about that impact fee, talk about all the money that we're raising. That money that we raise is specific to this building. It's not to anything else. Staffing-wise, we have about 350 sworn officers. Just in terms of numbers, you think, well, that seems good. So it's the year 2024, 346 sworn officers. Back in 2008, we had over 370 sworn officers. So we actually have less sworn officers, policemen, today than we did back in 2008. A lot of things happened, right? The economy crashed. We weren't able to hire people as fast as we needed to, but our population has significantly grown since 2008. I think the one thing that's worth noting is the way we do police service now is different than what we did in 2008. We use a lot more technology. So while our numbers may look down, that doesn't necessarily mean that we're providing any less of a service to the public. It just means we have found ways to do things faster and smarter and using technology to help us get there. One thing I wanted to point out is this new DEEDS program. Directed Engagement, Enforcement, and Deployment Strategy. So this is a great name. We're focusing right now on the downtown area. We are coordinating with a bunch of different departments. We're coordinating with our code enforcement team, our police officers, our Parks and Rec team, and we're looking at things we can do specifically on the river and in the downtown area. So we're targeting some of these things. We're cleaning up some of the encampments in the downtown and on the river using this team. We're also looking at calls for service and really trying to target that downtown area, providing a faster, better service. We're looking at graffiti. We're looking at just reaching out to the businesses and saying, what can we do to help you guys? What are your issues? Again, it's not just our police force. It is a full team of departments working on this program, but we're seeing great results. I think this started in September, so it hasn't been quite a year yet. And every month when we go to council, we give them updates on some of the progress that we're seeing with this group. Utility services. So this group within the City of Reno really looks at things related to sewer and stormwater. One of the big projects they're working on is called the APWF, or the Advanced Purified Water Facility. This is a brand new facility that's going to be built out in the North Valleys. And the idea is that we would use that existing treatment plant, it's a sewer treatment plant. And when sewer goes in, then something comes out, right? Poop goes in, cleaned up poop comes out. What do we do with that cleaned up poop? Reclaimed water. It has to go somewhere. So there's this program called the APWF program that we've been working on. We're going to create a whole new pipeline and a whole separate building, and it basically is going to clean up the water that comes out of the sewer treatment plant to a higher degree, and then we're going to pump it back into the ground into an aquifer that's further out in North Valleys. This is something a lot of other states do, but the state of Nevada does not. This really is high technology, a step up in terms of cleaning water. This also provides the ability for us to kind of hold up to droughts, right? Right now when we have droughts and we're in these closed basins and water's low in these basins, there's nowhere to go for water. Once we run out of water in these basins, we're out. So this gives us the ability to pump water back into those basins that's clean, and you can actually drink it. So this is something that we've been working on for a number of years. We're working both with Tumwa and the City of Sparks and Washoe County. It's a very expensive project. I think the latest numbers I've seen are about $250 million, B as in boy. That's what I made in an allowance in the 80s. So this is a very expensive project. Reno is paying about 70% of that bill. Again, where do we get that money? As development happens, development is required to pay sewer connection fees, hundreds of thousands of dollars that we get from development that we're putting in a piggy bank and saving for this project. We're also going after grants, so we have a huge amount of grants that we were able to get. I think we just got $30 million in grants that we kind of worked out with Tumwa. Tumwa's paying 30% of this, so this is definitely a long-range plan. But again, this is something that creates more of a sustainable water source for the City of Reno, so this will definitely benefit this region. Public Works. So anytime there's a flood, anytime there's a major snowstorm, the Public Works Department is your best friend. They're the ones that are out there working the 24-hour shifts, plowing the roads, cleaning the storm drains anytime there's a major event. These people work really, really hard. So the Public Works Design Manual, it's a big manual that pretty much regulates anything that is city regulated. So it's not private property regulated, it's government regulated, like sewer lines and storm drain lines and streets. So they have had the same Public Works Design Manual for, gosh, probably 15 years. And so right now they're going through an update similar to what we're doing with our zoning code. So some of the key areas that they're looking at is looking at the street design requirements, storm drain, sewer, street lighting, and even traffic requirements. So they are going through, it's probably another 6 months of working with stakeholders, working with the development community, working with our team at Development Services to update that manual. Once they make all their changes, we will be doing an update to our zoning code to pretty much match what they have done, so that our public requirements for public infrastructure matches private requirements for private infrastructure. We want to make sure those two are aligned. So you'll be seeing more of this topic in the next year. business license. So anytime a business comes in, you guys see a ton of businesses come in, Burger King, for instance, In-N-Out Burger. They go through their planning and the zoning, they get that approved, and then they have to go through and get a business license. So this is a completely separate set of regulations, not planning regulations, but business license related. But again, we work hand in hand with this department because so much of what they do really intersects with what we do. So here's a couple of those different chapters that they're looking at updating. Things that you guys have seen or maybe not seen, alcoholic beverages, bars and restaurants, how we regulate live entertainment, all of those things. So they hired a consultant and said, hey, can you just look at best practices? So it wasn't so much as look at our code and tell us what we're doing wrong. It was look at the state of Nevada and find what we're missing. Maybe we agree or don't agree, but just tell us what's right or wrong in terms of best practices. So they came up with a lot of changes, and we went out to the public. The business license department went out to the public, and we received a lot of kind of negative feedback. I think a lot of people said, whoa, what are you doing? We didn't approve this. Why are you making these changes? So just for the record, these were not staff's recommendations. These were not city council's recommendations. This literally was the consultant was hired to look at best practices and then bring it forward. And then our council and staff can work together to figure out what makes the most sense for the city of Reno. So they've been working on this for probably 6 to 8 months, actively working on this, and I think we're going to slow down the process, go back and do more community outreach, make sure we get all the feedback before we move forward to the next step of trying to make some actual kind of decision-making with staff and the city council. This is a fun one. So we have a whole redevelopment agency. We have a department that's focusing on redevelopment. Kind of some of the big things I wanted to highlight for this group is our downtown facade improvement program. We have basically free money that we are giving out to the downtown business owners if you want to make some changes. This could be anything from the front of your building, maybe needs to be painted, maybe you want to change the facade, maybe you want to get rid of that tacky 1990s theme and do something a little bit more modern. So we're basically, we have a program set up where you could apply. We give you show us how you're going to spend the money, what you're going to do with it, and then we're allocating money. So we sadly haven't had a ton of interest in this. I mean, you can throw money at people and they can not take it, and there's only so much you can do. So we're continuing to try and encourage business owners to do more to really just, better the look of downtown. So that's something I think is super positive and easy money for the community that wants to use it. The next one is that picture on the top left. That is our community assistance center. That used to be the old homeless shelter, as I would call it. And it's been vacant for a couple years. Once we opened the CARES campus, which is kind of the big tent shelter on 4th Street, this building closed down and it's been vacant. So there's been a ton of vandalism. The elevators don't work. I think the price to fix the elevators is about $1 million. It's a lot of money to fix an elevator. We've also had flooding in there when the fire alarms have gone off and the sprinklers have gone off. So there's been a lot of damage to that building. And so we put it out to an RFP and we asked developers what they would like to do with it. We had 4 applications come in for proposals for that project. At last week's council meeting, council reviewed the applications, the different RFPs, and are likely going to move forward with a type of residential development. Most likely they're going to tear down this building and put in, I think it was a 4-story building with a low income component. So there will be again, this was something that was kind of a priority, an affordable housing component. So we'll follow that and see where that goes. Then that picture on the right, that top right, is our Locomotion Plaza. The train trench, if you remember when that was built, basically we have a train trench, and on top of the old train track, we now have just a concrete pad. And so over the years, we've been saying, what can we do with that? So we have some money that we got from the federal government, and so we're going to use that to really activate that space. Right now, there's a really cool mural on that train trench, and so we're going to do more. We're going to put out seating, some shade structures. We're going to buy some big cargo containers, similar to like what you see at the Eddy, where you can use those as a place to go and a place to kind of do activities. We can also use those cargo containers for storage. So all that's in process. We're trying to also activate it to have events. So we have somebody that we've hired whose job is to basically plan and coordinate events. So there'll be concerts, there'll be food events, there'll be just fun activities for kids. We're trying to keep it happening, so we have activities happening, like twice a week through the busy months of the summer. And even in the winter when things are cold, we're trying to kind of activate that and keep that space happening so that locals will want to come downtown, and here's a kind of a safe space where there'll be things happening. And then we have two kind of big plans happening. The Virginia Street placemaking, that's that one on the left, on the very bottom. We hired a consultant and asked them to look at the Virginia Street corridor in our downtown area and say, what can we do? So we've done a lot of studies over the years on Virginia Street. And you go back to at the heart of it, it's the same answer, right? We need to activate downtown. If you're walking downtown and you see a blank wall, that's not activation. So there's so many things we can do, and they gave us a lot of recommendations. So we're looking at funding and what can we do now and what can we do kind of midterm and longer term. Some of the easy ones are, seating, shading, things for people to do, trying to encourage people not to just be walking in downtown, but stopping and maybe doing some shopping. So there's some ideas of some little kiosks being set up, lots of things happening in that kind of realm. Similarly, we're doing the Truckee River Corridor plan. Same thing, we've had a lot of plans over the years on the Truckee River Corridor. Same ideas. We have to activate our river. We need people, we need the right type of people that want to do activities, right? Whether you want to go and play in the water, or you want to just take a walk or ride your bike, or you want to have art and events on the river. So many things we could be doing. So we're really trying to activate that space, improve the lighting, more seating, definitely more events. Again, all a big kind of a broad picture. Not one thing is going to fix it. We only have so much money to go around, so we're really trying to be smart with how we spend money and put in some improvements on the river and on Virginia Street. And then the best department of all, Development Services. I don't know if you've heard about this group. There's about 70 people within Development Services. We have planners, we have engineers, and we have ladies and men from the building department. So we have a pretty big department, probably one of the bigger departments outside of police and fire within the entire city. So you see our staff day to day, and they're the ones that process the applications. So they're reviewing building permits, they're the ones doing the entitlements, but we have a whole separate team that really works on, I would say, more of these long-range things. Just coming up in the next probably 18 months, here is a list of things that you can expect to see and be a part of. From a zoning code perspective, we just had the housing ordinance adopted, so council passed that. That was very exciting. Next up is our zoning code cleanup. We will be going to city council next week to talk about the things that we shared with you back in March and April on the zoning code cleanup. That will be coming back before you guys again for a formal recommendation, so look for that probably this fall. The next thing on our list is a new sign ordinance. That has anything to do with our existing sign ordinance. We want to make sure we clean it up to match some federal regulations that maybe we're not consistent with. And then telecommunications, that's cell towers. The ADU ordinance. So we just went to council recently to talk about an ADU ordinance. They gave us some feedback. We're going to start that kind of public process later this year. We're going to go out and get stakeholder input, go back to city council, go back to planning commission. So it's a long process, but that's a very big topic. We want to make sure we do it correctly. Short-term rental, that's another one. That's the Airbnbs and the VRBOs. We're coordinating with our business license department and our city council to make sure that we do it correctly, make sure this is something that the city wants us to start working on. Again, once the Public Works Design Manual is adopted, we're going to come back with changes to our zoning code. Once the business license code's adopted, we're going to come back and make changes to our zoning code. So there are a ton of changes related to our zoning code that you're going to see in the next 12 to 18 months. bigger picture, long range. This is like the vision, right? What do we want to be when we grow up? So regional planning really is the long range vision for the community, Reno, Sparks, Washoe County. They are doing their 5-year update now. For those of you that sit on regional, you've been involved in those meetings. Our staff's heavily involved in those as well. We'll be seeing that probably in October. Once we adopt the new amended regional plan, we then have to go back and make changes to our master plan. We're not going to do any major overhauls. We're just going to basically be in conformance with the new updated regional plan. And then the next two things are some big things, some big ticket items that we really haven't touched base on in a couple years. So our sphere of influence. This is the boundary of where we want to grow in the next 20 years. We've had a number of different development projects come to council over the last year and a half from asking to annex, and our city council has denied the annexation. So this is really a good opportunity to go back and say, where does the city want to grow? There's probably areas we don't want to expand, maybe because we can't provide police, fire, sewer, road service. So we'll look at all that. And then an annexation program. That is the places where we want to annex as a city in the next 7 years. We have not had an annexation program, I think, since 2017. So we need to adopt a new one. Again, we'll be working with our council heavily on that to see what their vision is as to how we want to grow and where we want to grow. So that summarizes, again, all the big ticket items that I thought you guys might be interested in. We're going to come back, probably on a twice-a-year basis and give you updates again, just so you can stay in the loop. We're also going to do more trainings kind of specific to land use and things that you deal with as planning commissioners. So we'll be starting that probably in the month of September, just to keep you guys awake and alert and aware of what your role is as a planning commissioner. Any questions?
Open it up to the commission for any questions. Commissioner Becerra?
Sure, not a question, just a thank you. Very insightful. I think it really helps us get a sense of how we all work together and how our decisions influence to some degree the development of the city in partnership with y'all. So I look forward to these. Thank you, Angela.
Great.
Yeah, thanks so much, Angela. I really look forward to these presentations. Looks like there's a lot going on, so appreciate the update. And I think it's particularly great that there will be kind of maybe a renewed focus on some of the planning commissioner training, because this body had the good fortune of having folks that were really tenured on here for a long time, but we've got certainly some new folks here, myself included, that I would say are relatively new. So I think the training will be really good for us to just make sure we understand the scope of our role and continue to do a good job.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So that will close item 4.2, and we can move into Item 6, Truckee Meadows Regional Planning Liaison Report.
We have nothing to report since last time. We have a meeting tomorrow night with one agenda item for the Chisholm Mobile Home Park, and that's all that's on the agenda.
Great, thank you. We'll close item 6, move to item 7, staff announcements.
Excuse me, just a couple of things. The city council next Wednesday on the 28th is set to hear the Canyons PUD that you recently approved with your recommended added condition. As well as you recall, a couple months ago, we had NV Energy come through for the power line. NV Energy and Heinz Ranch, which is Stonegate, has appealed the condition requiring the alignment one that was related to the alignment. That will be heard by the council on Wednesday night. And as Commissioner Vilto stated, regional planning will hear the Chisholm Mobile Home Park master plan amendment and zone change tomorrow night. And that's all I have.
Great, thank you. We'll close item 7 and move to item 8. Commissioners' suggestions for future agenda items? Seeing none, we'll close item 8 and move to item 9, public comment. This item is for either public comment on any action item or for any general public comment. I don't have any requests to speak forums. Is there anyone wishing to speak on Zoom?
No one on Zoom, no correspondence, no voicemails.
Seeing no one in the chamber, I will assume no one in the chamber wants to speak under general public comment. Close item 9 and move to item 10, adjournment.
So moved.
So second.
All right. We
All in
will-
favor?
Yes, we will adjourn. Thank you.